Daylight Saving Time, or DST, is about to end for 2017. Almost the entire country will be moving its clocks back an hour in the wee hours of the morning on Sunday, November 5th. What these articles and arguments tend to ignore is that DST is a bizarre idea in the best way possible. It is a human attempt to force our lives to fit the natural world in a more sensible way, to number life hack ourselves into a pattern of living that benefits our minds and bodies. DST is both a rebellion against the clock and an acceptance that we are all slaves to the clock. It is amazing that anything this wacky, this totally loopy, ever actually took hold, and it's even more amazing that it's not just accepted but the norm. And the reason it became the norm is because, though it certainly isn't perfect, it is extremely hard to argue that DST on the whole does more harm than good. The fundamental misunderstanding of DST is a result of us Americans, humans, really, being impatient and all too willing to miscalculate the harm of short-term problems over subtle long-term benefits. Remember, DST is not the 2 days per year, fall back and spring forward, when we move our clocks around. DST is 8 months long. Those 2 days are the beginning and the end of DST. To focus on just those 2 days is ridiculous, says David Prera, the author of Seize the Daylight, the curious and contentious story of daylight saving time and one of the world's leading authorities on DST. There's a big difference between the effects of the 1-hour change from standard time to daylight saving time. Those effects take place over a day, maybe up to 3 days, versus daylight saving time itself, which lasts 8 months, he says. Critics of DST often focus their criticisms around those 2 days per year, citing confusion, schedule disruption, and even health problems. A 2012 study indicated that in the few days around the springtime clock change, the beginning of DST, in other words, incidence of heart attack rose by 10%. Never mind that heart attacks were found to decrease around the time of the autumn clock change, also by 10%. Never mind that heart attacks are much more likely to come in the winter and early spring than any other time of year, period. Statistics like that are pretty easy to twist to your liking. In reality, DST is an 8-month experiment designed to make life, well, more pleasurable for humans. The basic idea: in the Western world, we typically spend more awake time in the evenings than in the mornings. We also enjoy many benefits from being awake in the sunshine. This National Institutes of Health overview is a good place to read about vitamin D, increased exercise, increased socializing, and overall improvements to mental health that come with sunlight. Absent DST, for 8 months per year our days would not be structured to enjoy the most sunlight possible. Our mornings would be bright and cheerful, but the sun would tend to be set before we leave work each day. This stinks. This gives the average 9 to 5 adult very little time to enjoy sunlight. So during the spring, summer, and early autumn, we tweak it, just a bit, so that there's more sunlight in the evening. In the winter, we abandon DST, because there just isn't enough sunlight to make a difference. Winter is pretty much a dark hell world no matter how it's scheduled. Winter DST would give us a very very late sunrise and not enough light in the evening to provide the effects we want. Another contentious statistic: traffic accidents. Opponents of DST note that, in the week following the spring clock change, traffic accidents spike. This is true. But, again, DST lasts 8 months, not a week, and the net effect of DST on traffic accidents is overwhelmingly positive. In fact, studies actually estimate that we could save about 366 more lives per year if we extended DST all year round. It is, very simply, easier to drive in daylight. Yet the impact of sunlight on driver safety is far more complex than that. There's much more traffic than in the evening rush hour than in morning, says Prera. The morning only has commuters, the evening has commuters plus people who are going out for other reasons, whether that's going to dinner, or parties, or various afternoon activities. Not many people are driving around in the morning if they're not going to work, so it makes sense to arrange things so driving is safest in the evening. Some industries hate DST, and for good reason. Farmers, contrary to the strange and completely false belief that DST was created for them, actually despise it. Their schedules are entirely run by sunlight rather than the clock, and so when everybody else changes their clock, it throws a wrench into their day. Tasks like harvesting have to be done in concert with the sun's position, so if their driver, manufacturer, or packager suddenly has to come to work an hour later, that can screw them. TV executives hate it, too. As a matter of fact, anyone whose industry relies on people staying inside hates DST. TV ratings always go down during the first bit of DST, when its effects are dramatic. But is that necessarily an argument against DST? Should we really be saying that it's more important for people to watch TV than to go outside? The industries that love DST tend to be outdoorsy. PREA names the National Park Department, outdoor equipment manufacturers, and even urban stores and outdoor malls, since people will be more likely to walk around and window shop, as beneficiaries of more light. But the biggest reason why DST is worth keeping? It's a perfectly imperfect, fantastically weird idea with noble intentions. There aren't that many of those that actually get any traction, and DST has firmly anchored itself in our lives. Let DST stay. It just wants to make your life better. Related video, watch news, TV, and more on News Pulse View. You might also like